sounds good. So I chose the dwindling of athletics in our society. And what drove me to this was I was a dive coach for 3 years and I was an athlete for 10. And as the years went by, my teams would dwindle and dwindle and dwindle until eventually, coaching wise, I had 7 people on my team opposed to 14, which I started with. And that was really hard for me to watch because I fell in love with the sports at a young age. And I realized that there are some athletics that people put above others. Like football, everyone likes football games, but they don't go to swim meets very often. And coming up to Fargo, the way that it was separated, they separated girls and boys, making it even less likely that the sports would be participated in because they have a different fall team for swimming, but the girls swim in the winter. And so the idea that this has changed simply between two states, because I'm from Nebraska and we all practice together for the same sport, whether you are competing as a male or female. And so simply the division of athletics that we're here. So we chose for our speech to use the effects that drugs and alcohol have on a pregnancy and the fetus. And our call to action was simply telling people to educate yourself and how to support the people who are having problems with this. Because you can't control what someone else puts into their body. And so seeing the way that they are affected by it and the way that you can help is huge. And not a lot of people know how they can be supportive in a productive manner instead of just sounding like they're lecturing the women, and that's not the way to go about it. And so helping people know how exactly to show positive support and enforcement was a good call to action, I think. I really hope they would mention that I was very flexible. Our schedules were very conflicting, and so we couldn't meet a lot during the day, and it often meant we met late at night, and that was very difficult. And so we would plan to meet, and I would make sure I had all my stuff figured out. Like one time we met and we said we were gonna have figured out the way that we were gonna organize our thing or our plan to organize, and I made sure to have all of that done beforehand. And then the likelihood that in case someone forgot to mention like what they were to talk about, I came in with ideas on the other aspects more than just the part that I was going to be talking on. And I thought that showed good flexibility and good proactive thinking in the aspects of what are we doing today. It was very challenging because in that communication department, because the two girls I chose to work with had been friends before and they weren't really talking very much at the time we were practicing our speech and getting it ready to go. And so I ended up being a mediary between them, and one would tell me a time they could meet and the other would tell me a time they could meet. And then it came down to me to actually set a time and say, you guys gave me these times, we can do this time. And then even when we met as a group, it was difficult because they wouldn't talk very much to each other, and so I ended up having to share a lot of the ideas that I know they had and that they told me about, but they weren't willing to tell each other, and that made it really difficult to not have a good communication system in place. I liked the idea that everyone knew they had a strength and they had a weakness, and people got to know those strengths and weaknesses. And so I know I had problems with time, And so after I had a speech that went over, no one was really over happy about that because it meant they had to spend more time and took time out of the class. But then when I finally got a speech in the time warranted, people said good job, that was awesome. That was nice. Thank you. Thank you. I look forward to hearing from you.